In this day and age, private armies are really a thing of the past. They have long been superseded by national armies that belong to recognized states. Mercenary companies don't really count either, as they are businesses whose services are hired out, and the individuals have no long-standing loyalties to any individual, rather they are simply contract soldiers. However, one private army still exists, a personal bodyguard that for centuries has belonged exclusively to one aristocratic family, and it has received official royal recognition. The Atholl Highlanders. The Duke of Atholl in Scotland is one of only 36 royal and non-royal dukedoms that currently exist in the United Kingdom. It belongs to the Scottish clan Murray and was created by Queen Anne in 1703 for John Murray, the second Marquess of Atholl. The holder of the dukedom is also the hereditary chief of Clan Murray. The main family seat is Blair Castle in Perthshire in the Scottish Highlands, dating back to the 13th century, though the present building is largely 15th and 16th century with some Victorian additions. The raising of a private army was due to America, specifically the American Declaration of Independence and the war with Britain that followed. In 1777, the 4th Duke of Atholl raised the 77th Regiment of Foot to assist with relieving the overstretched regular British Army, and the unit was used as a garrison force in troubled Ireland, relieving a regular unit for service in North America. The men were recruited under the strict terms of an agreement for either 3 years or for however long the war in America lasted, but the British government double-crossed the Highlanders, and in 1781, their terms of service completed, instead of being disbanded, the 77th Foot found itself being marched to Portsmouth on England's south coast. The men had no idea that the government actually planned to ship them to India as a garrison unit. However, discovering their fate shortly before boarding the troopship, the 77th mutinied. The government wisely backed down, and the regiment was permitted to march to Berwick-upon-Tweed in England near the Scottish border, where it was officially disbanded in 1783. Fast forward to 1839, and the 6th Duke decided to raise a new regiment to be named the Atholl Highlanders, to be his colourful personal bodyguard unit, to escort the Duke to official functions and sporting events in the Highlands. It would incorporate the look and traditions of the old 77th Regiment of Foot. Official sanction for Britain's only private army followed in 1842, when Queen Victoria, touring Perthshire, stayed at Blair Castle twice, and the Atholl Highlanders provided her bodyguard. In 1845, as a reward for their excellent service to the monarch, Queen Victoria ordered that the Atholl Highlanders be presented with royal colours, the ceremonial flags that are central to the identity and traditions of regular British Army and Commonwealth regiments, even today. In this way, Queen Victoria gave official sanction to the Atholl Highlanders, creating in effect Britain's only private army, and indeed this tradition was followed by the late Queen Elizabeth II, who presented new stands of colours to the regiment in 1975 and again in 2006. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Atholl Highlanders saw plenty of high-level public service as uniformed bodyguards to royal visitors to Blair Castle, and at the annual Braemar gathering held each September in the Highlands. Apart from British royals, Blair Castle entertained Crown Prince Hirohito of Japan in 1921 during his extensive tour around Britain, he later becoming the Emperor of Japan in 1926, and to King Faisal of Iraq in 1933. However, the cumulative effects of 2 world wars on recruiting for the Highlanders and the financial problems that befell many aristocrats after the Second World War meant that the Atholl Highlanders paraded less and less until the regiment basically stopped appearances. That was until the time of the 10th Duke. In 1966, the Duke reinstated the regiment's annual parade and increased recruitment from among the estate workers who traditionally provided the soldiers of the regiment. In 1973, the reconstituted regiment paraded before the Queen at the Braemar gathering, with pipes and drums and colours flying. When the 10th Duke died in 1996, he was succeeded to the title by John Murray, his second cousin, a South African, and he continued to live in South Africa, making an annual visit to Blair Castle. The 11th Duke died in South Africa in 2012 and was succeeded by his son, the present 12th Duke of Atholl. He also lives in South Africa and only visits Blair Castle annually, where he is still Lieutenant Colonel of the Atholl Highlanders. Additionally, the Duke is also an officer in the South African Reserve Forces, formerly of the Transvaal Scottish Regiment, now the renamed Solomon Mahlangu Regiment. So how big is Europe's only private army? Not very. It is about one infantry company in size, with around 100 to 110 men, including its pipes and drums. The unit's standard weapon is the venerable Lee Metford rifle, forerunner to the famous Lee Enfield. The Lee Metford was the British Army's standard battle rifle from 1888 until phased out before the Boer War, and the Atholl Highlanders is the last army on Earth to use this rifle. The officers are armed with a basket-hilted broadsword, and all members of the regiment also carry a special type of Scottish knife or dagger called a scian-dhu. The regiment also has a ceremonial field gun which fires blanks. The tartan worn is the Duke's tartan, Clan Murray, and the regimental march is March of the Atholl Highlanders. Glengarries are worn as headdress with blue patrol-style tunics. Naturally, the regiment conforms to standard British Army drill movements and commands and follows the British Army's rank systems for Highland regiments. The regiment also issues its own medals, which are worn after any official British medals awarded, including a 2012 Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal and a Long Service Medal. So, with a lineage stretching back 248 years, the Atholl Highlanders is the oldest private army in the world, and the only one still existing in Europe. A flamboyant and colourful hangover from a time when aristocrats were a more visibly powerful force in British society. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.